Hi students, in our last video we have explained cardinal utility analysis and consumer equilibrium of Alfred Marshall. Through this video we are moving to the next concept on consumer equilibrium, ordinal utility approach. This analysis is also known as indifference curve analysis. Indifference curve analysis is associated with two economists, J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen. This approach is an advancement over cardinal analysis because cardinal analysis assumed the utility of a consumer can be measured using numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But here this analysis is based on ordinal measurability of utility, that is, utility of a product cannot be measured using numbers but can be compared or ranked. We can rank them, and on the basis of the ordinal ranking, ordinal preference, we can rank them as first, second, third, etc. Therefore, if we are using a commodity or two commodities, we can say that which commodity is the best one, not by measuring the utility using numbers, but by comparing their performance or utility or satisfaction level on the basis of ranking. We can explain ordinal utility analysis by using a simple example. Here we assume that the consumer is consuming two commodities, product X and product Y, and consumer is going to have different combinations of these two commodities. Another aspect is that these products are substitutable in between each other. That means one product can be substituted instead of another. One product can be used instead of another. Suppose there are various unlimited number of combinations available before the consumer. We can use this x-axis and y-axis or this diagram to explain the situation. We have x-axis and y-axis. On x-axis we are representing product X, and on y-axis we are representing product Y. In this diagram there are various combinations of X and Y like this. That means consumer can have any combination of X and Y like different points plotted in the diagram. Here, suppose if the consumer is selecting point A, then we can say that consumer is having this much amount of X and this much amount of Y. Therefore, a combination of product X and product Y can be plotted using point A. In the same manner, we can plot point B. We can have this much amount of X and Y. And if a consumer want to have more X and more Y, he can have point C. He will be having this much amount of X and this much amount of Y. That means there are various combinations of X and Y available before the consumer, and he can select any point from these combinations. This is the first part of the analysis. From these all available combination, now consumer is going to select certain combinations on the basis of certain features. Initially he is selecting point A, that is he is using 1 unit of X plus 5 unit of Y. Here the consumer is getting n level of satisfaction. That means consumer is having a particular level of satisfaction by selecting point A. Now he is adding another point to this group. Here also there is one condition. He has changed the combination, that is B. It is having 2 unit X plus 3 units Y, but consumer is getting same level of satisfaction N. Now we can add one more point to this group, one more combination of X and Y to this group, C, what is 3 unit X plus 2 unit Y. This third combination, that is point C, also provides the consumer same level of satisfaction. It means that A, B and C are providing same level of satisfaction to the consumer. If he is selecting A or B or C, consumer will be getting satisfaction level N. Now we are going to plot these points in the diagram. We know that point A represents 1x and 5y. We have plotted 1 and 5, 1.1 on x-axis and 0.5 on y-axis, and we will get point A. Similarly, we can plot point B, that is 2x plus 3y. We can have point B, and in case of third point, point C, we can have 3 unit of x plus 2 unit of y, and we can have C. By joining these 3 points, we can derive a curve. This is the indifference curve. That is, consumer is getting same level of satisfaction from all these 3 points. Therefore, we can derive an indifference curve by joining the locus of different combinations of two commodities that provides the consumer same level of satisfaction. Once again, indifference curve is the locus of combinations of two products that gives the consumer same level of satisfaction. Therefore, this is set 1. It contains different combinations of two products that provides the consumer same level of satisfaction. All the combinations on this set will give the consumer a particular level of satisfaction, that is N. Here we are representing it as N. Here we need to consider one important point, that is point A, point B and point C provides the consumer same level of satisfaction, and therefore consumer will be indifferent in between these 3 combinations. Since A, B and C are providing same level of satisfaction, consumer will be in confusion. That means there is no difference between A, B and C with regard to consumer's choice, because all these 3 combinations provides the consumer same level of satisfaction. Therefore, we can say that consumer will be indifferent in between different points on a same indifference curve. Therefore, indifference is the absence of difference. Indifference is the absence of difference or absence of preference. Since there is no difference, there will be no preference. A, B and C will be equally preferred. Therefore, there is no preference. Therefore, indifference curve is the absence of preference or presence of indifference. Presence of indifference. An indifference curve is showing the presence of indifference between different combinations. Now we are going to plot another set, that is point D. It provides 2x plus 6y, which contains more x and more y than set 1. And second point 3x plus 4y, and similarly for third point 4x plus 3y. Here also all these points D, E and F provides the consumer another level of satisfaction, that is M. For example, in the previous case we have plotted set 1 as indifference curve 1. In the same manner we can plot set 2, which provides satisfaction level M, into another indifference curve. That is, we can derive point D by joining 2x plus 6y, and we can have point E by joining 3x plus 4y, and similarly point F. And by joining these 3 points we can derive the indifference curve 2. Here we know that points on indifference curve 2 provides the consumer more satisfaction, because consumer is having more x and more y from indifference curve 2. But indifference curve 1 provides lower satisfaction than indifference curve 2, because it contains lesser x and lesser y. Therefore, we can plot different sets of combinations that provides the consumer same level of satisfaction in different indifference curves. And theoretically it is possible to draw a number of indifference curves in one diagram and such a diagram can be termed as indifference map. Here we have drawn an indifference map. It contains a lot of indifference curve. Theoretically, it is possible to draw any number of indifference curve in same diagram, and it is known as indifference map, as he already mentioned. Here we need to remember certain points. First thing, an indifference curve represents one particular level of satisfaction. That is, an indifference curve is the locus of combinations of various commodities, that is two commodities, that provides the consumer same level of satisfaction, and an indifference curve represents a particular level of satisfaction. Second point, suppose indifference curve is higher, higher will be the level of satisfaction, and indifference curve is lower, lower will be the level of satisfaction. It means that IC1 provides lower satisfaction than IC2, and IC2 provides lower satisfaction than IC3. Or higher the indifference curve, higher will be the level of satisfaction. Third point, a consumer always wants to have a higher indifference curve. Since a consumer is rational, he wants to have more and more unit of X and Y, and therefore a consumer always prefer higher indifference curve. Now we are moving to the income price line. An income price line shows all possible combinations of products X and product Y that can be purchased by the consumer by using his entire income. It is the potential buying combinations. It shows different combinations of two products that can be purchased by the consumer by using his entire income. Now let us suppose that income of the consumer is rupees 100 and price of X is 10 rupees. Now we can say that consumer can purchase a quantity of 10 units X, because we have divided our income with the price of X. Thus we have derived the quantity 10. If the price of commodity increases, consumer will be able to consume only lesser units, and when price of the commodity decreases, consumer will be able to consume more units, because his income permit him to purchase a particular quantity of a commodity. In the same manner, suppose price of Y is rupees 5 and consumer can purchase 20 units, quantity 20 units. This is derived by dividing income with price of Y, and we will get this 20 units. Therefore, consumer can have either maximum of 10 unit X or 20 units Y. Here we can say that suppose consumer is consuming 10 unit X, he will be having nothing left in his income. Therefore, he can purchase only 0 unit Y. Therefore, if he is purchasing 10X, the remaining quantity of Y will be 0, and suppose if he is consuming 0X, he can purchase 20 unit Y. That means his entire income, if he is using his entire income, he can purchase 10X or 20Y, or he can have any combination in between these two extremes. Suppose consumer is consuming 5X, then he can have 10Y. Similarly, if the consumer is decreasing his quantity of X to 2 unit, that means he is consuming 2X, he can have 16Y. It means that consumer can have any combination of X and Y. The maximum amount is 10X plus 0Y, and the other extreme is 0X plus 20Y. It means that he can have a maximum of 10X or 20Y. Now let us plot this income price line or budget line into a diagram. We can have x-axis and y-axis. On x-axis we are having commodity X, and on y-axis we are having commodity Y. We can plot point B as the maximum quantity of X that can be purchased by the consumer. Similarly, we can plot point A, which is the maximum quantity of Y that can be purchased by the consumer. Therefore, OB is the maximum amount of X and OA is the maximum amount of Y that can be purchased by the consumer. we can join these two lines AB and we can derive this income price line. This is the income price line or budget line. It shows all possible combinations of two products X and Y that can be purchased by the consumer. All possible combinations of X and Y that can be purchased by the consumer. Suppose consumer is selecting point C, he need to spend his entire income. Similarly, if he is selecting point D, he need to spend his entire income. Similarly, suppose point E also same as point C and D, because he has to spend his entire income. Consumer is not ready to consume point F because F lies below the budget line, because consumer always want to have maximum satisfaction and therefore he will be consuming maximum of X and Y. Therefore consumer will not select a point below the income price line, that is point F, like point F. And similarly consumer cannot purchase a point like G because it is above the income price line. This above point is also not possible for the consumer because his income is limited up to the level AB. Above AB is not a position, not a point to the consumer because his income does not permit him to purchase such a point. Therefore, we can say that AB is the income price line. It shows all possible combinations of product X and product Y that can be purchased by the consumer by using his entire income. An income price line is showing all possible combinations of X and Y or two products that can be purchased by the consumer at the existing income and price condition. If income and price conditions are changing, this income price line also will be changed. Now the slope of this budget line or income price line is equal to minus Px by Py. This is the equation for a budget line, Px by Py. We have given minus sign because it is negatively sloping. As the consumption of one commodity increases, the other commodity is to be decreased. Now let us move to the consumer equilibrium. In order to reach to consumer equilibrium, we need to combine two diagrams, the diagram of indifference map and the diagram of budget line or income price line. Therefore, we are going to combine budget line and indifference map in this diagram. We have x-axis and y-axis. On x-axis we are representing product X and on y-axis we are representing product Y. We have an income price line, that is AB. This income price line shows all possible combinations of X and Y that can be purchased by the consumer. Now this is an indifference curve IC, and we can plot different indifference curves in this diagram because we are plotting indifference map. Now we are having various combinations of product X and product Y and various indifference curves showing different levels of satisfaction. Now we are considering initially point C. We know that consumer will be selecting a point on the income price line because all the points below income price line is inferior and all the points above income price line is not reachable to the consumer. Therefore consumer will be selecting a point on the income price line. Here point C is the point first we are considering. It lies in the below lower indifference curve, and point D is also in same indifference curve. C and D represent a particular level of satisfaction that is represented in the lower indifference curve IC0. Now we can have point E. As we compare point C and D with point E lies on a higher indifference curve and consumer can have maximum satisfaction. This is the most suitable point as a consumer is concerned because it contains maximum amount of X and maximum amount of Y that can be purchased by the consumer. Suppose if the consumer is selecting point C, D or like point F, consumer will be having lower level of satisfaction. And suppose if he is selecting point F, it lies below the income price line, and therefore consumer is not ready to have a point like F. Similarly, consumer is not able to select a point G on IC3 or IC2, a higher indifference curve, because that is above the budget line. A point above the budget line cannot be preferred by the consumer. Therefore, consumer will be preferring a point on the income price line. Therefore, the best possible point at this situation is point E, which provides the consumer maximum satisfaction. This situation is the point of equilibrium. Therefore, point of E is the point of equilibrium, where the highest possible indifference curve is tangent to the budget constraint. The highest possible indifference curve tangent to the budget constraint, or an indifference curve which is tangent to a budget constraint, is the point of consumer equilibrium. Here consumer is selecting OM unit of X and ON unit of Y. By this, he has spent his entire income for the products of X and Y. Here all the points other than point E is inferior, either inferior or unattainable. Point C and D are inferior because it lies in the lower indifference curve. Point G is unattainable. Point F is below the income price line. It is already said that it is inferior. Therefore, as per the indifference curve analysis, consumer equilibrium is attained where income price line is tangent to an indifference curve. Technically speaking, the equilibrium point is the point where the slope of budget line or slope of indifference curve is equal to the slope of budget line, or slope of budget line is equal to the slope of indifference curve. Here AB is the budget line and IC1 is the indifference curve. The slope of IC1 is equal to the slope of AB at point E, and therefore this is the point of equilibrium. This is the consumer equilibrium approach developed by J.R. Hicks and R.J.D. Allen and is known as indifference curve analysis. Thank you.